Hello and welcome to the world of Zwift. Now, I'm not sure if I'm pushing the familiarity boundaries too far by calling you WASDog, so I'll save that for another time. Either way, I'm pumped to bring you your weekly serving of Zwift Racing League action and analysis. I'm OJ Borg, and together with a hand-picked squad of racing aficionados, which look like the A-team but with less cigars and more lycra, well, we'll dive into all that is great and good in the land of Zwift racing. So let's see what's on the menu. We'll bring you the highlights and results from Week 3 of the Zwift Racing League Premier Division. Matt Stephens and Dave Towle will swing by for a ZRL chat. Matt Gardiner gives us the inside track on Team Saris in the Pros Closet. Anna Russell brings us the lowdown from Down Under as we get the news from the APAC ZRL divisions. We'll be in the Coach's Corner with Kirstin Armstrong, and Ella Harris takes on a tour of Watopia's Magnificent 8 for her Pro Rider Recon. After the excitement of the first elite team time trial last week, we were back with a Premier Division points race on the Richmond UCI World Championship course on Monday, a course that in polite company you'd call it punchy. If impressionable young minds aren't around, then you might go for something a little fruitier, especially around the Libby Hill area. Now, going into the men's race, Canyon Esports was sitting pretty at the top of the table after a dominant TTT performance, but could they hold their lead? That is the question, and now let's find out what went down in the men's race.
The men are racing, big field here, 19 teams. As we hit the first sprint, look at all the power-ups that are being dropped. Leeson takes the win from Gleeson and Young.
Ben Healy here, he's going to take maximum points for Team Trinity.
And they are absolutely romping up. This Mel takes maximum points. I've never seen an avatar look so much like the real person.
Ben Healy really going for it in these last few climbs. He wants to hurt the legs of the other bike riders.
Moore now moves to the front and is looking very, very good for the Wes team. We've got a very, very big group that's going to come into the finish. Mike Cumming looks like he's moving clear on the front. Thrall is moving up. Tom Thrall takes the win for the EVOP bike team. Another sensational finish here.
It was a cracking race on the Richmond course, packed full of team tactics and a great individual performance as well from Tom Thrall at the end. But it was Team Saris in the Pros Closet who managed to stack the top 10 and take that win. And I'm delighted to be joined now by Mr. Killing in the name of himself. That is Matt Gardiner, who is the team manager and co-founder of Team Saris in the Pros Closet. Matt, thank you for joining. And I do have to say, I'm calling you Mr. Killing in the name of. Why is that? Why am I calling you that?
I love Rage Against the Machine.
I love the fact that you raced that music. Talk to me about Monday's race, about the tactics that won it for you.
You know, we actually attacked this race a little differently than the last time that we faced the Richmond course. We actually took the overall win, as Tom Thrall did, but we went too hard going for the intermediate points, and then we didn't have as many guys at the end of the race. So this time we knew if we did everything we could to conserve throughout the race and just tried to stack the finish as much as we could, that we would be better off, and it paid off.
Looking at the table after 3 races done, you're sat second behind Canyon, 3 points down. Are they beatable?
I think they are beatable. It's going to be really tough. They're such a strong team and so consistent. So we have our work cut out for us, certainly, but I think we can do it.
I mean, if we look at the points races, 2 wins and then not so good in the team time trial. How frustrating is that for you that had you done better there, you could be absolutely bossing this league so far?
It didn't go as we hoped. We actually started the race with 4 guys, which just out of the gates, that's a tough way to start the team time trial.
How are you planning differently then for next week?
You know, we're going to make sure we get all 5 guys into the course, and we're going to be working on our transitions to be as fluid as possible. Making sure that every watt counts towards our speed.
Well, I think the racing so far after the first 3 weeks has been fantastic. How excited about next Monday are you?
I actually won't be racing because I'm expecting baby number 1 pretty much any day now, but I can't wait to watch the team crush it.
Even if you're in the hospital, you have a little iPad out watching what's happening?
Oh yeah.
Well, Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure. Good luck for Monday, and good luck for your first child as well.
Thank you very much.
Fresh off the plane from the Giro, Matt Stephens was at the helm this week to call the Premier Division action on Zwift live. Now, he'll be joining us in just a second to give us his thoughts, but first let's check out what happened in the women's race, which was a very different affair from the men's.
Round 3, Richmond. It really is a relentless course. It's going to be interesting to see where these teams use their riders to gain maximum points.
Wilson from Gutsch with Larson, and that really is going to set the tone here.
That was a really impressive sprint there. No pins, picking up the 5 points.
Cecilia Hansen, well, she's absolutely on fire here, opened up a nice little gap there, and she takes maximum points. Kuczynski is absolutely flying on this course, determined to try and split things up. Reznikov, who took the climb there and has split this group in the process. Caroline Williams has opened up a little bit of a gap. Williams still driving hard. She is going to be hurting like crazy. Maximum points are going to go again to Team Heino. A wonderful performance.
Buongiorno, Matt Stephens.
Buongiorno, OJ. I'm back.
How was the Giro? Yeah, you are back. How was the Giro?
It was a lot of fun. Obviously, an interesting, difficult Giro in many ways, but the fact we had the race was amazing. And the Italian spirit was wonderful, and what an exciting race we had.
Well, let's talk ZRL, Matt. How was it? It was your first taste. You were back, straight back into it. I was watching it. 2 different races in the men's and the women's. They both went off differently, both entertaining in their own way.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favourite courses. For the women's race, it was really aggressive throughout, little attacks going, and then we saw a real natural selection at the end. And then in the men's race, it was completely different. There's 1 or 2 riders trying to go clear, but you could sense almost everybody was kind of anxious and kind of waiting till the final. So we had an aggressive women's race and a far more tactical men's race, which is really interesting considering they're racing on exactly the same course.
Matt, it was great to watch. In your opinion, what were the stand-up performances? Anyone who really stood out?
In terms of an individual in the women's race, had to be Kirstin Kuczynski, who we know has got an amazing story, hasn't she? Relatively new to Zwift and a rider that I've never actually commentated on before. But her tenacity and also her staying power. Final lap, won the 2 sprints, held on to make the selection. Okay, didn't win, but still came third. It's no surprise she's been picked for the United States for the World Championship soon. So she was the standout rider from the women's race for me. And I think the winner of the men's race as well, Thomas Thrall of Evok. I know he got second in round 1, but again, a rider relatively new to Zwift, a couple of years in, and his normalised power for that race, get this, 413 watts. That's the highest normalised power that he's ever raced on Zwift, and it just shows the level that you've got to be at, the kind of pain you've got to be able to kind of absorb if you're going to win a race on Zwift. And that final finish, when he caught, I think it was Mike Cumming in the finishing straight. I thought Mike had got it, a rider I know very well. And then Thrall enthralled us all. No more Thrall puns, but yeah, he is a definite rider to watch for the future. Very, very impressed by him.
Now, obviously, there's been racing up and down all the way through the leagues, in the community as well, of which me and my Cat C big dogs, we were racing. Matt, do you need a team? Are you a Cat C? Do you want to join our team?
I tell you what, you put me on the spot there, and I better say yes.
Now's as good a time as any to bring in a man who has his finger on the pulse of how the rest of the divisions got on with the Richmond's points race this week, and that is Dave Towle. Dave, how are you, buddy? Good to have you with us.
Hey, thank you very much, OJ.
Now tell me, how did this course go down with our community division? Because it seemed like everyone loved it.
This is the most dynamic course that you could possibly race on. As Matt was mentioning, it's 2 courses within one. It's really hard to crack the code. You need a team with a lot of depth, and you need to come in with a really good strategy, picking up bonus points or saving it all for the end. And I think that we've seen, actually, I would really highlight this battle going on with Aeonian and Sox for Watts. These are 2 teams with depth. Watch that race out of the Europe, Middle East and Africa division. That women's category has it all for you there. And you can see that when you get 2 dogs fighting for a bone, every now and then a third one will come and take it, like Captain Curie, the 2008 U.S. road champion. She snatches the win, but there's so many points up in that top 10 that if you can get 3 or 4 riders scoring, even in the top 12 places, you're going to find yourself in the top of the table.
So talking tactically then, or points or just action, what was the standout moment for you?
For the standout moment for me was actually a rider that defied all expectations. Her name is Isabella, racing for the InstaFun team out of Canada. She went with another Canadian, Anna Rogers, in a breakaway on that Richmond course. Remember, just like Kolchinski in the Premier League, it's not likely you're going to make it to the line. They were caught at the bottom of Libby Hill. They re-attacked the race, redoubled their effort, and it ended up being Isabella for InstaFun that won. It's almost unheard of to go on a long attack, get caught, and then redouble your effort and win. It was an outstanding effort, one I'll never forget.
Absolute effort right there. Matt, when you look at this league system, it seems to be a real game-changing moment in the development of the sport.
It certainly does. I think it's wonderful. I like the fact that we've now got the opportunity to see riders from the community create new teams. That they can learn from the teams that they're racing against. There's also this kind of jeopardy as well, which is wonderful, because any kind of league structure in any sport needs a narrative. So we've got a real narrative here where the top 2 teams from the community leagues can move up to the Premier, and then 2 of the Premier teams can go down. So you've got teams that want to aspire to get to the top level, and teams that are fighting for survival as well, which is just like in football or whatever. So I think we've got a wonderful structure here. I'm really interested to see how it's going to develop over the next couple of years. But I mean, looking at some of the stats already, like Dave was talking about, and we've got 4,000 riders riding team time trials, for God's sake. It's incredible.
Are there any community teams that could really stick it in the Premier Division?
There's a few, no doubt about it. I would look at that Aeonian squad. That's a perfect example. It's not about having a single strong rider on your team anymore. It's about having that depth. If your team wants to advance, as Matt says, up into the Premier League, you're not going to do it on the basis of 1 or even 2 really strong riders. You need more like 4 really strong riders if you want to make an impact as a team. And that's really what we're talking about. Individual results are great, but it's the team where you move the needle.
Well, you just mentioned the word team, Dave. Are you signed up to a team in the community leagues?
I'm so busy with the commentary that I don't want to dilute my focus at all from what I'm doing here. I'm keeping my eye on the prize, OJ.
All right, well, listen, the Catsy Big Dogs have got you if you ever want to return back to the racing world, Dave. As always, thank you for your pearls of wisdom. Dave, will be seeing him next Monday for the Premier Division TTT, and Matt is going to be back week 5 for our next points race. Now, one of the things we all love about the ZRL is just how quickly it's becoming a global phenomenon. We have thousands of teams racing across multiple divisions and regions, and we thought it was high time we took a peek at some of the talent coming out of the APAC region. Here to tell us more is Zwift Community Live commentator and self-confessed Zwift addict, Anna Russell.
Thanks for that, OJ. The APAC region has been super exciting, and we've got some dominant teams already coming to the forefront. There's just so many teams coming together and some standout individual performances. We had the Richmond race just a couple of nights ago. Probably not a favourite race course of mine. It is absolutely brutal, and we saw that. We saw heart rates up near the 200s for some of our riders. Absolutely insane. I'd have to say Kim Garland in the female division, outstanding performance across the board. She had some breakaways in that second lap. She pulled ahead of Peterson, got those QOMs, and she took it all the way to the line. And then we had a nice little battle going on between BRT and also the Aero team. I've got to say, BRT absolutely stand out, one of the best team performances I have ever seen. On that first lap, they went up on that finish of the lap climb. And then we flick over to the men's side, Greg Grosicki. Unbelievable. Every time he came through, took out the win, huge sprint finish. He can just lay down those watts, which is surprising because he comes from a long course triathlon background. But there we go. He has taken to Zwift like a duck to water, and he can sprint like the best of them. But we did see some great performances also from the DPAC riders. They were really trying to take out those sprint prims in the first lap and the second lap. So perfect racing, I would say, from Team Relentless, Brian Duffy as well, with Greg Grosicki and Scott Cantizano. So one to watch coming into next week with the team time trials. They didn't win it last week, so let's see how they get on and if they can stay up in the points. So head over to Zwift Community Live, check out the APAC coverage of this race, check out the one coming up next week, the team time trial. This is definitely the division to be at. I'm a little bit biased, but I love the racing down under.
So week 3 of the ZRL is behind us, and now we turn our attention to the second team time trial of the season. It was new to a lot of teams first time out, and one thing is for sure, the team time trial format has the ability to make, it also has the ability to break. But what do we learn from the first Premier Division team time trial, and how can teams play it smarter when they hit the course next week? Here to take a forensic look at whether TTT is won or lost is triple Olympic gold medalist Kirstin Armstrong in her Coach's Corner.
Hi, it's Kirstin Armstrong here, bringing you some performance insights during the Zwift Racing League Series. Team is the name of the game when it comes to the TTT, and there's a reason there's a famous quote: "You are only as strong as your weakest link." In preparation for the Magnificent 8, here are a few of my top TTT winning strategies. Numbers are key. The more teammates you have to the finish line, the better. The larger the pod, the faster you'll go. As we saw in RGV, teams who crossed the line with 4 or 5 riders found their way to the top spot on that podium. To ride in a blob or a straight line, the name of the game is to keep your speed high, ride seamlessly, because precision really matters in the team time trial. On a relatively flat course like RGV, you'll notice that first place teams like Hino and Canyon took it to a hybrid style. They rode straight lines on the flat fast sections and a blob style while riding the rollers. Flexing off the front is not a good idea, nor is soft pedaling once you take that pull. Both have the same outcome. Gaps are created and sometimes they never come back. Saris, the pros closet, is a great example where we saw a strong rider like Ryan Larson ride away from his team, forcing his teammates to close that gap. At the same time, their fourth rider fell off and they rode the remainder of that TTT course with only 3. Raw power and the depth of your team is important, as is the in-game strategy and knowledge. You put those 2 together and you'll be on that top spot. Each one alone and you'll finish strong. Practice, practice, practice. It's the name of the game. The Magnificent TTT is up next. The course is quite flat with, well, the only climb being the reverse hilly KOM. This hill is short and shallow enough that a lightweight climbing setup does not give you even 1 second of an advantage. So the aero rules the day. Get the most aero frame and wheels that you can afford. I'm absolutely loving the Zwift Racing League, and I can't wait to see what happens on Monday.
Do you know what? I absolutely loved doing the last team time trial. Although watching that from Kirstin, I realised all of our tactics were completely rubbish, even having Dr. Hutch on board. We didn't go for the straight line. We attempted the straight line technique, but what we actually did was go for 3 musketeers in a bag. Angry musketeers at the same time. A, there was 5 of us, and B, it was all for none and none for all. This week, though, I think we'll go blob, and hopefully, as a team, we shall do better. Anyway, the backdrop for our next team time trial will be the unique world of Watopia and the Magnificent 8 course. Now, here to give us a guided tour with our pro rider recon is Canyon-SRAM's Ella Harris.
So here we are on the Magnificent 8 course. It's a 28-kilometre, reasonably flat loop in Watopia, and we're getting underway. We're just coming out of downtown Watopia towards the volcano circuit. It's flat and fast. I think it's important to have a team plan as to what pace you're going to set out at. You want to be able to make sure you get into a rhythm with your teammates so that nobody's left behind at the beginning. Pretty hot and spicy section of the race now. We're in the middle of the volcano, but hopefully in your team time trial, you're not in the red too much at this point because we're only about 2K in. This is the hilly KOM. You'll notice that we go over a slight rise over the bridge, and then it's a small reprieve, and then we're into the climb. I think it's pretty crucial for a team to have Discord or some kind of communication going so that you can let your other teammates know how you're feeling. And if you're one of those riders that does struggle with the gradients, don't be afraid to speak up, because if you get dropped on Zwift, the gaps open up very quickly and it'll be hard to get back to your team. Magnificent 8 course is very flat except for this hilly KOM. So it's definitely one of the most critical points in the race. It's a 2.4 kilometre climb at 2%. It's really a make or break section. I, for one, love to have music going when I'm Zwifting. I just find it really gets me in the zone. On Discord, you can actually have your music playing and Discord going at exactly the same time. You need something to try and drown out the pain, so music's good. We're starting the gradual, but still not insignificant climb out of Furgo Flats with 6.2 kilometers to go. You really don't want your team to split up here. If you're one of the stronger climbers in the group, just hold back a little bit. Really look out for the riders who might not be so strong when the gradients go up. It's quite a picturesque part of the course. Kudos to the Zwift visual designers. So we have a final 3 to 4% rise before we make the last right-hand turn, and we're back on the Watopian downtown waterfront. We're under 200 meters to go now. Use that as motivation. Get out of your saddle if you can. And boom, we're done. And that is the Magnificent 8 Team Time Trial course. Whew. Fast, flat, but pretty hard.
For someone who's built like a small family hatchback, flat and fast, well, that's my type, of course. Another Monday, well, that's just around the corner, which means more Premier Division racing on Zwift Live. The teams, as we know now, we're taking on the Team Time Trial on Watopia's Magnificent 8 course. Let's hope they've picked up a few tips from Kirstin and Ella. Nathan and Dave, well, they'll be here to bring you all the racing from the Premier Division on Monday, and then the action flips to Zwift Community Live on Tuesday, where you can catch the community divisions from around the world, all racing. I'll be there. Looking forward to it. We'll be back here next Friday with the latest from the world of Zwift. For now, don't just ride, race and ride on.